Welcome to the Locked On Wizards podcast. It's your host, the real Ed Oliver, and today I want to talk about an article from Marc Stein saying that Bradley Beal feels like he wants to be the Dirk Nowitzki of the Washington Wizards, and also a podcast from Bill Simmons saying that the Washington Wizards have the worst GM job. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Wizards podcast. It's your host, the real Ed Oliver. You can follow me on Twitter at EDTOOOFLATT. Just want to thank you guys for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. We are nearing the NBA draft. It's getting closer and closer. I can't wait. A lot of excitement, and we'll see what Tommy Shepard can do and if he can work some magic in the draft or make a trade and make this roster better. We'll see. So I can't wait. I'm super excited. So I did want to get to an article from Marc Stein, who is a NBA reporter, well-known NBA reporter. He says Bradley Beal feels like he can be the Dirk Nowitzki of the Washington Wizards. And when Bradley Beal is saying that, I understand, he reportedly wants to be the Dirk Nowitzki of the Wizards. So I understand what Bradley Beal is trying to say, that he wants to be loyal to the Washington Wizards. So I'll quote the article here. So from Marc Stein, he says, quote, Bill is known for saying in essence that he wants to be the Dirk Nowitzki of the Wizards in terms of playing only for the franchise that drafted him number 3 overall in 2012. There's also another part of the article that I'll read as well. Marc Stein, quote, I've heard a rumble or two in recent months from parties hopeful of luring Bradley Beal away from Washington that Bill is known for saying in essence that he wants to be the Dirk Nowitzki of the Wizards in terms of playing only for the franchise that drafted him number 3 overall in 2012. Also, in an interview last week with Bleacher Report's Taylor Rooks, Bill stopped short of publicly promising to re-sign with Washington this summer, but did strongly hint at it when he said, if I feel like I can win in DC, that's what I'm going to do, and I want people to respect that. So for him to be the Dirk Nowitzki of the Wizards, and that's a really tough comparison there. Dirk Nowitzki is a Hall of Famer by far. I mean, I think Bradley Beal, when it's all said and done, the trajectory of his career, I think Hall of Famer, we'll see. I know he's been a 3-time NBA All-Star, All-NBA, 30 points a game, back-to-back years, 25, 5, and 5. He's done a lot of things that a lot of people have not been able to do. Average 30 points back-to-back years and also make an All-NBA team, which is legitimately hard to do. So Bradley Beal can definitely make a case for making the Hall of Fame for sure. But, looking at Dirk Nowitzki and his career, he's made 12 All-NBAs. 12 All-NBAs, about, let's see how many All-Star games Dirk has made. Dirk has made about 14 All-Star games. 14. Let me look this up. 14 All-Star games. He won the NBA championship in 2011 and 12-time All-NBA player. So, in this reminds me of Bradley Beal before the season. He had some lofty goals for himself in the opening presser and media day. He said he wants to make All-NBA. He wants to win an MVP. He wants to make All-Defense. He wants to win a championship. He did say those things. So those are lofty goals that, of course, you want to set out for yourself. You do want to have high goals and set high standards for yourself. So I respected Bradley Beal when he said that. This report, if it is true or not, most likely it does have some validity to it. I do understand what Bradley Beal's trying to say. But Dirk Nowitzki also, if you did not know, he also took pay cuts. He took pay cuts. So these are the questions. Bradley Beal, if you're willing to say you're going to be a Dirk Nowitzki, and I respect it, I'm not going to pocket watch or anything like that, but I highly respect Bradley Beal. If he decides to take the $250 million, the 35% of the salary cap of the Wizards, the $250 million from the Wizards and Tommy Shepard and Ted Leonsis, if they're offering it to him, all power to him. He's had 10 years of service with the Wizards. He's been a stand-up guy on and off the court. He's been a great player. So I respect his decision if he does that. But I do want to read something about Dirk Nowitzki with the Dallas Mavericks. He took pay cuts. He signed back in 2014. He signed a 3-year, $25 million deal with Dallas in the summer of 2014. He could have, this is the article, he could have ring chased and joined a contender. However, Dirk wanted to stay loyal to Mark Cuban and the Mavs. So if Bradley Beal says he wants to be the Dirk Nowitzki of the Wizards, is he willing to take a pay cut? Is he willing to take less money to allow other free agents or other people to join the Wizards? You know, is he willing to do that? Is he going to make 10 plus all NBA teams? Is he going to make 10 plus all-star teams? Is he going to do that? Is he going to be a number one option on a championship team? Those are the questions for me. Can he lead a team past the first round? Can he lead a team past the play-in while being the best player on that roster? Dirk Nowitzki took a team with no all-stars on that roster. It was Caron Butler, Deshaun Stevenson, Jason Terry, Sean Marion, Brendan Haywood, Tyson Chandler, Jason Kidd, who was 37 years old at the time, Peja Stojakovic. Dirk Nowitzki made people around him better and elevated that team and beat a team with LeBron, Chris Bosh, and D Wade. Even back in 2005, when they made it against the Heat and they lost, he elevated a team that was solid, but they weren't a bunch of juggernauts. They weren't a super team or anything like that. So those are the question marks for me. So if Bradley Beal does make a statement like that, saying that he is the Dirk Nowitzki of the Washington Wizards, he has to check off some boxes. The boxes are is he going to take less money than taking that max deal, the $250 million? Is he going to make multiple All-Star games and all NBA teams? Is he going to elevate a team past the first round and lead them to a playoff run? You know, or is he going to be able to beat a Celtics team, a Bucks team, a Heat team, a Nets team? So to say that, that's adding a lot of lofty expectations, is adding a lot of loyalty, which he has been loyal for the most part. But, you know, the question mark, is he looking at the money, which Taylor Rooks asked him in that interview, is he looking at the money or is he looking to win? And he said he's looking to win, but the Wizards roster-wise, you look around and it's not giving you the Wizards roster is just not going next year, in my opinion. It's going to be an uphill battle to be better than the Heat, the Celtics, the Bucks, the Nets, even the Raptors, the Sixers. There's just a couple of teams that just have higher talent and higher star level on that roster. So Bradley Beal, he's put some lofty expectations out there for him by making that statement, if it is 100% true. And he has to check off a couple boxes there. So that's very intriguing to me. So I do want to get to Bill Simmons' podcast and react to what he said about the Wizards having the worst GM job. I just feel like this episode just sounds so down in the dumps, but I do want to get to that. But before we do get to that, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks, I use PrizePicks all the time. It's easy to use. You pick 2 to 5 players and an over and under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry, and it's just you versus the projected numbers. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. PrizePicks is safe and offers fast withdrawals. Use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. PrizePicks offers any prop you can think of, from points scored to rebounds or even steals. You can take the over on Steph Curry's threes or take the under on Jason Tatum's threes or Jaylen Brown's threes or Marcus Smart's threes in the same entry. And PrizePicks doesn't just offer NBA. They have options on college basketball, college football, NFL, MLB, soccer, MMA, and more. For a limited time, PrizePicks has an exclusive no-brainer of an offer for all of our users. Users get $50 for free if a player in your first PrizePicks entry scores a single point, but you must use code NBA. That's right. This is an exclusive offer available to Locked On fans. Sign up today and use code NBA, $50 for free if a player in your first PrizePicks entry scores a single point. Also, just want to make the ultimate NBA mock draft starts June 16th with over 50 insiders. Nothing equals the ultimate NBA mock draft. The Locked On NBA Big Board, draft experts, plus the Odyssey insiders. First pick is June 16th. Search Ultimate NBA mock draft and follow now so you don't miss a pick. All right, so I was listening to the Bill Simmons podcast, who formerly was on ESPN. And I do want to pull up some quotes here. I wrote down some quotes from the podcast. This one, I mean, Wizards fans, we know where we are as a roster. We know where we are as a front office, and you know the things that we have, and it's just an uphill battle right now. I continuously say that we are in basketball purgatory. We're not a contender. We're not bad enough to get a top 5 pick. We keep getting picked 10. We keep getting picked 9. We keep getting picked 15. That's where we are as a franchise. So to provide some context, this is they did an exercise. They said, you know, we're going to do an exercise on the worst GMs. Him and his guest, I want to look up who the guest was. It was Ryan Russillo, who also is an NBA reporter. They talked about, you know, their worst GM jobs. They made a list. So to provide some context, they listed the Lakers as the worst GM job. They listed the Kings as a worst GM job. Of course, the Kings haven't made the playoffs in the last decade and a half. The Lakers right now, you know, they're in turmoil. You know, they don't know what to do with Russell Westbrook. They may try to trade him. He most likely will opt in. $47 million. They just hired a new coach in Darvin Ham. They fired the coach Frank Vogel, who just won the NBA championship not too long ago in 2020. LeBron is aging. He's still really good, but Bill Simmons also said that he would trade LeBron if he could, because how much longer is LeBron going to be there? You have Anthony Davis, who's been in and out of the lineup with injuries. Is he going to stay healthy? He just shot a basketball. Anthony Davis just came out the other day and said he hasn't even shot a basketball in a couple months. He also said the Hawks. He said the Suns have a tough GM job right now with the DeAndre Ayton situation. He said the Nets as well with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. He said the Sixers as well, if you pay James Harden. This is what Ryan Russillo said. So let me get to the Wizards here. This is what they said about the Wizards. And I'm paraphrasing, I'm quoting, I wrote down as much as I could. So this is the first statement that Bill Simmons said. He said, he questioned, this is some of the questions that he asked. He said, I have to build the team around Kristaps Porzingis. So where I provide pushback against what Bill Simmons said on that, you're not building the team around Kristaps Porzingis. I get what he's saying, Bill and Porzingis, not just Porzingis alone, but you're really building the team around Bill and Porzingis. So that is a question mark. A guy who has missed a lot of games, even though Kristaps played really good in the last 2 months of the year, paying him $30 million, and the injury concerns definitely is a question mark. Then he also wanted to say, is Kuzma a max guy? Kuzma played really well this past season. He had a great season. He has a player option next year. I talked about that on the last episode. He played above expectations. He played above that $13 million contract. So do you want to pay Kuzma a max deal? Then he said, I'm not a free agent. The destination, talking about Washington. We've talked about that many times before. A lot of people don't want to come to DC. Even Kevin Durant, who's from the area, decided not to come to Washington. Al Horford decided not to come to Washington, even when we were somewhat of an attractive destination at our peak with John Wall and Bradley Beal. Only free agent we were able to get is Paul Pierce. So we're not a free agent destination. So that makes it an uphill battle. We're not like LA. We're not like Miami. We're not like Brooklyn. We don't attract free agents. For that reason, we have won a lot of games. Free agency, front office hasn't, questionable decisions here and there. And then he went on to say, I'm in a conference with the Celtics, Bucks, Heat, and Nets and Raptors. All those teams, as I said, just have a better roster than the Washington Wizards. They just do. They just have better stars and all-star level talent all around. And then he also made a joke. He said, you get the job as a GM, you go out for drinks, you have some laughs. And then he says, since you got the job, somebody asks you, what are you going to do? He says, oh, well, we got the mid-level exception. What do you do with this job? He said, we don't have cap space and the team stinks, quoting. Then he said, they will have to pay Bradley Beal. And the move is that you will have to trade him. He's got the wrist injury. I don't know what his trade value is. If he's my best guy and he's not a two-way guy, how far are we going? First round and that's it? Question mark. What is my destiny? I don't want to pay anyone $50 million a year who can't be the best guy on the championship. So he made some very valid points there. Do you want to pay Bradley Beal when he's not he's more of an offensive guy. He's not a two-way player. He's not a lockdown defender. A la Jimmy Butler is a great two-way player. You see what he's done. You look at guys like Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, they're number ones on their team. Giannis is a number one on his team. He's won a championship. Look at LeBron James as well. So Bradley Beal, he's just not in that tier. Joel Embiid, he hasn't won a championship, but Joel Embiid is a number one on a championship contender, in my opinion. So Bradley Beal, he's just a tier below those super max guys, in my opinion, or those superstar level guys. I think Bradley Beal is just a tier right below Joel Embiid, Giannis, KD, and those guys. I think he's just Steph Curry. I think he's a tier just right below those guys. He said he would not pay $50 million to somebody like a Bradley Beal. He brought up Donovan Mitchell as well. He wouldn't pay Donovan Mitchell $50 million a year as well. So he made some points there. And he doesn't know what the trade value of Bradley Beal is. I don't know either. I feel like it has gone down. I think his best trade value probably was 2 years ago. Now, are you going to get a huge haul for Bradley Beal? I think you can get a good haul, but you're not going to get, I think what social media expects to get for Bradley Beal, I don't think you're going to get a huge haul for Bradley Beal like social media expects. I think his trade value has gone down, especially with the season that he had this past year where he shot his worst three-point percentage, highest turnover percentage, and he only averaged 23 points a game compared to 30 points per game that he averaged 2 years prior, back-to-back years. Then also Ryan Russillo was quoted to say he just wants to stay. Bradley Beal just wants to stay and get the $250 million and figure everything else out. Ryan Russillo also says the decision will come down to Bradley Beal said the decision will come down to winning. But Ryan Russillo said that Bradley Beal should have said that this contract and my next trade demand will all be about winning. making a joke there, but being serious. He said that Bradley Beal should have said that this contract and coming up and my next trade demand will be all about winning. So some tough points that they said there, but they said the honest truth. Tommy Shepard has an uphill battle here. I mean, they're over the cap and they don't have a lot of all-star talent. They don't have a gluttony of all-stars, say like the Nets have Kyrie and KD and Ben Simmons, or how the Sixers have Joel Embiid and James Harden, or how the Bucks have Giannis and Middleton and Drew Holiday. The Heat have Jimmy Butler, PJ Tucker, Lowry, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and their draft picks are playing above expectation. Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, or you look at the Grizzlies, they have John Morant, Desmond Bane, Dylan Brooks, Jaren Jackson. The Wizards just don't have that talent crop, and they're already over the cap. They're a struggling middling team, and they only really have the mid-level exception to really play with in free agency. So they don't have cap space at the moment. And then also Ryan Russillo said, you're going to pay Kristaps Porzingis and Bradley Beal combined $75 million a year to be a 9 seed. That's just awful. So this is just a rough thing to look in the mirror and think about. It really is. And that's where the Wizards are. They are in basketball purgatory. They had some tough decisions to make. They are going to pay Bradley Beal, but the tough part is how are you going to build around him? Is he going to take a pay cut like a Dirk Nowitzki, as he said that he wants to be? Most likely not. And are you going to make a big trade and trade for somebody like a Malcolm Brogdon when your ceiling really is just a 9th or 10th playing seed? And that's what they're working with right now. Unless Kristaps has a great year and plays like he did in 2017, that all-star year, or Bradley Beal plays like he did, averaging 30 points, and we do find a good point guard to come in and play well. Kuzma steps up and plays well. So a lot of question marks there. It's a tough uphill battle for the Wizards. They've drafted okay, but not great. And they just don't. They're never bad enough to get lottery luck to get a top 5 pick to bring in the top end talent in. So the Wizards are just in a tough spot. It is a tough GM job for Tommy Shepard. He's made it tough for himself too. He did come from a tough spot after Ernie Grunfeld left. He's made some good trades and he's drafted okay. And he's made some rough signs that haven't worked out, a la Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans. He had to put those fires out. And he's tried his best, but it's a tough GM job. It really is. It's a tough GM job. And Ted Leonsis saying that he will never, ever tank makes it harder as well because they're not pushing the rebuild button when even if they do make some good roster moves, the East is just better. The East is getting better. And they still might make upgrades on the roster and they can still be a playing team. That's just how deep the East is with the Celtics, Bucks, Nets, Hawks, Heat, Sixers. The Sixers will probably get better next year as well. So there's other teams. The Hornets are going to get better. They're a young ascending team. I already said the Hawks, the Raptors. There's just a good amount of teams that are better roster-wise than the Washington Wizards right now. But I do want to answer one mailbag question, and then we'll wrap it up. But before we do get to that, this episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, news, and odds, including this year's basketball championship matchup, the NHL hockey conference finals, Major League Baseball, and, of course, all the latest fighting news from MMA and UFC to boxing. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sport and wagering information, including live betting, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline where the game starts. All right, so one quick question here. We're going to start off the mailbag episodes for the rest of the week, and we'll probably do a draft episode here sometime this week before the week wraps up, and then we get into most likely just strictly draft talk before the draft next week on Thursday. This is a question from Andy Man on YouTube. He says, what do you think our ceiling is with a top 10 point guard, and who would be your number one point guard for us to realistically pick up? Andy Man, that's a good question. I already said that our ceiling is a 6 seed if we get a good point guard. I do like the option of getting Malcolm Brogdon, but do you have to give up the 10th pick to get him? Iffy on doing that because the Wizards, they need young talent. They need young guards. But, of course, with Bradley Beal, they're in win-now mode. So I think Malcolm Brogdon would be a good fit next to Bradley Beal. And I really do like I'm starting to really like the idea if John Wall isn't bought out. The reason why is because you could get him for the mid-level exception, and you wouldn't have to give up picks. You wouldn't have to give up assets just to bring in a point guard. So you keep Kuz, you keep Rui, you keep Denny. You get to see those young guys grow if they can fight for a starting spot or just get playing time in a rotation. You keep Kuz, who played really well, played above expectations last year. And John Wall's he's a pass first point guard. He's a guy that's going to be able to get guys set up. Can he, be strong at the point of attack defensively? Definitely has to improve in that. but he brings some athleticism and speed. Doesn't have that same 100 mile an hour speed, but he's still very fast and quick, and he can still get downhill. He would create a lot of open shots for Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal said that John Wall made him better, and he would smack him in the Taylor Rooks interview. He said, talking about the Colin Cowherd take, saying that John Wall didn't make people better. Bradley Beal said that John Wall made him better. He taught him how to, read double teams and pass out the pick and roll. That's why Bradley Beal was really good at the point guard position last year. I think John Wall would come in and help this team. And Porzingis, he would get the ball to Porzingis, a lot of pick and rolls, pick and pops, throwing lobs to Daniel Gafford. John Wall would put pressure on the rim, and the mid-range shot is still there with John. And I think he would be a solid, cost-efficient option. Tyus Jones is an option, but he's going to get more than mid-level exception. Do you want to trade picks, do a sign and trade for just Tyus Jones? I like Tyus Jones, but is he really worth that? Do you want to trade for a Mike Conley? Ricky Rubio is a free agent. Patty Mills is a free agent. Dennis Schroeder's a free agent. Those teams are not as inspiring, or do they really move the needle there? Colin Sexton, he's not really a point guard. He's a combo guard. He's a scoring guard. So we already went through that situation last year. Would he fit next to Bradley Beal? That's a question mark once again for me. D'Angelo Russell, there's no interest. Kyrie Irving intrigues me a lot. I know that's a wild card, and I know it's risky, but if he does not want to be in Brooklyn, I think you just have to raise the talent level for the Wizards. You really do. And Kyrie Irving is a future Hall of Famer. This guy he's a 50-40-90 guy, can shoot the lights out of the gym. He can pass. He can facilitate. He can get a shot whenever he feels like it. And if you really are trying to compete and win now, you got to take big swings. And I think Kyrie Irving would definitely fit next to Bradley Beal. It would be two guards that can shoot. Bradley Beal is a good shooter from the three-point line for his career. I think Kyrie Irving really would raise the talent bar, and he would make the Wizards competitive. They still would be like a 6th seed, because you see how Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant were able to even get past the first round. So Kyrie and Brad, they're not going to get past the first round, but they would make the playoffs. They would for sure make the playoffs. And I don't know if you have to include Porzingis in a trade for Kyrie. I don't see why the Nets would want him, but maybe a 3-team trade or something like that. But Kyrie and Brad Beal would be very intriguing to me. Kyrie Irving in a full season, can he stay healthy? And if there are events going on off the court, where is he going to be? There were times where he was AWOL, where the GM didn't know where he was, the coach didn't know where he was. The whole getting the virus vaccine, all that has to be accounted for. But to answer your question, I think a 6th seed, and it would have to be like a Brogdon, or like I said, it's a big swing for Kyrie Irving. I would love to see Kyrie in DC. I'm in the minority here, and they have to draft well as well. But all right, you guys, I just want to thank you guys for listening. And making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. NBA Big Board host Rafael Barlow from NBA Draft Junkies and author of the NBA Big Board newsletter is joined by Richard Stamen, Sam Ferris, and Leif Thulin, giving fans an in-depth look into the NBA draft, mock draft, player rankings, and of course, Big Boards. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. Hail to the Wizards. Peace.